Hi there, E.A. Tischler here with New Horizons Golf. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about the short game. I've been getting some questions coming in with emails and texts asking about specific struggles that people have had in the short game. You know, traditionally, the left hand has been talked a lot about in golf, and using the left hand to control the golf shot. Most people that are right-handed have a hard time doing that. We're told things like, well, it's like in tennis, your backhand's stronger than your forehand. The reality is that isn't true. Why do we have a two-handed backhand and we don't have a two-handed forehand? The forehand stroke is always stronger. If you're right-handed, your right hand's your smart-handed. It's the hand that has the most touch. So we want to learn to use the right hand, in the short game, especially if you're one of those players that struggles with trying to control it with your left hand. We've also seen, players that have struggled with the short game go to things like the cross-handed grip. And maybe they putt cross-handed, so they feel like they have good touch with the cross-handed grip, so they just move that into the short game stroke. And then they get to a certain level where beyond a certain distance, like that size stroke, they don't feel like they can control it anymore. So at that level, that's where they will switch to more of a standard grip. So what the key is for any individual is to figure out what works best for you. Okay? One of the things I recommend you do is learning how to hold the club with your right hand only, and just learn how to play golf shots right hand only. I call it a tossing shot. I just want to get the feel as if there's already a ball stuck on the club face. And what I'm doing is I'm taking that club back like there's a ball stuck on the club face. As I come down, I feel like it's stuck on the club face. And as I follow through, I'm just tossing it out there. So basically the action is just back and toss. What you're going to find out is that if you really approach it just like a tossing action, it's going to work very well for you. A lot of people will try to toss and sort of toss off their back foot, and they get those drop kicks and those blades. Remember, if you were going to toss the ball with your hand, your body's going to turn, your chest is going to face your target, your pressure is going to go to your front foot. So you've got a nice shift of pressure to the front foot, you turn, you face your target, and you toss it out there. So when you're tossing with a golf club, we want the same things to happen. I want my chest to turn to face the target. I want pressure to go to my front foot. So back and toss. That tossing shot will have a little bit of a rolling release, just as it's stock shot. So, you got to plan for that a little bit. When you want to get some check or stop it faster, we'll talk about how to do that later on. So for this basic tossing shot, we're going to set up, we're going to lean the hand a little bit forward, and it's going to move the ball back a little bit. Again, just take it back and toss it out there. A lot of people find out they do better one-handed than two-handed, especially those that have really struggled with overusing the left hand in their short game. As soon as they put two hands on there and they try to toss it, all of a sudden they get some weird stroke again. It feels like a hit or a scoop or a slap, and they really struggle with the two-handed grip. So as soon as you're good with the one-handed grip, you got two ways to approach this. Number one, you go ahead and just play one-handed shots out on the golf course. I have a lot of students that do that, at least in the short term, because they feel they're way better one-handed than two-handed. Actually, at the U.S. Open at Chambers Bay this last week, there was a professional that actually played a one-handed only toss shot out on the course, and they caught it on live TV. Okay? But if you want to learn to make the transition from one-handed to two-handed, I suggest you do it this way. Get two balls ready to go, get set up, and go ahead and play one shot, one-handed, hold the end of your follow through, then put your left hand on the club, come back down and try to get the same feel with the right hand doing the job. It really ought to look the same. If you follow through one-handed, you put your left hand on there, take it off, put it on. When I make a two-handed follow through, it ought to look identical at this point. The right arm really ought to be controlling it for those golfers that are truly dominant right-handed, and that's where they have their control, their feel, and their touch. The other thing you can do is you can switch your grip. Instead of having some sort of interlocking or traditional overlap grip, you can go to either a 10-finger grip or a reverse overlap grip. What this does, it keeps your whole right hand on the club. So if you put your right hand on where you'd hold it and you get that feel of the one-handed toss, all you have to do is bring the club up, slide your thumb underneath the palm pad of your right hand, and let your left hand either go 10-finger or reverse overlap. That's going to take some of your left hand out of the club. It's going to allow you to control it with your right hand. So here we go. I got a reverse overlap grip here. And by the way, the reverse overlap grip is very similar to what we use in putting. And we're told in putting that this type of grip will give us better touch and better feel because our dominant hand's on the golf club. Well, wouldn't we want that on working for all of our wedge shots or all of our touch shots? So I'm going to go ahead and play a reverse overlap grip now, and go ahead and toss it out there. The next thing is that if you continue to struggle with the two-handed grip, learn to take some of your left hand off the club. You can take the pinky finger or the last two fingers of the left hand off the club and get set up and go ahead and toss it. If you can do it one-handed, there's no reason why you can't do it with your left hand up there and take a couple of fingers off. Some people would even go further as to just put the left hand down there without holding the golf club, take the club back, toss it, and just sort of let the left arm and hand learn that it can just kind of go along for the ride. So we set up, take it back, toss it, and go through. Everybody's a little bit different. You got to find out which version works best for you. For me, I prefer just take the pinky finger or the last two fingers of the left hand off the club, get set up, take those fingers off the club, use the right hand, and toss it out there. So once you're good at tossing it with the two-handed grip, you can do it one-handed first and then you can do it two-handed. Then it becomes a matter of how far do these shots go. And so I like people to use swing sayings and to judge how far they're going to go. So for example, if I set up and I said something like baby toss, it would go really short. I would never stand up there and actually go baby toss, because it doesn't make sense. It didn't feel like what I was saying to myself. You can say it out loud when you're training by yourself. If there's a lot of people around, just say it to yourself just to get that idea. But just get a feel for the size of the shot. Maybe it's a tiny toss. Maybe it feels more like a putt toss. What you want to do is just get the sense of how big of a stroke that you're making. So if I go from a tiny toss or a baby toss to something a little bigger, maybe it would become small toss. And that's going to go further. The next one maybe will become a mid toss. And that's going to go further. The next one may become a large toss. That's going to go even further. At some point I got to add some swing into this. So maybe it'll become what I call a swing toss. Now I'm in sort of that medium wedge distance, where that in between or those partial wedge shots, that a lot of people struggle with. What I've learned is by finding a saying that makes sense to me and I can react to, the shots are very predictable. They go the same distance time and time again when I'm practicing these shots. Once I get past the swing toss, I'm going to go to swing. So once again, I have a nice, partial shot wedge distance that I know if I say swing over and over again, I can reproduce. And the more you do it, you'll find out there's sort of a small, medium, and large swing. You'll actually be able to feel the difference between those. But find some stock distances first. Find ones that are reproducible. Put a swing saying to it. Now I've seen people say 1 toss, 2 toss, 3 toss, 4 toss for sort of 10, 20, 30, 40 yard distances. I've seen people say 10 toss, 20 toss, 30 toss, 40 toss. Everybody's a little bit different. Some people like more of a feel thing, like a smooth toss, firm toss, and that would give them 2 different distances. Figure out, what sayings you need to do. Figure out what sayings work for you. The best way to find a swing saying that works for you is when you're reproducing an action, describe to yourself what it feels like to you, and in that description, you'll know the saying that matches up for that shot and that distance.